Alright guys, sitting there working on these cases I'm filing. As y'all know, on October 4th I was arrested and charged with trespass and disorderly conduct. The disorderly conduct had a bond of $500, which because of lies told by Galveston County Sheriff's Department to my son and my wife, they paid a bondsman $150 to get me out on this $500 bond, which I was upset. I told them to pay the whole $500, but they told me that was lied to by the deputy. So they paid the bondsman $150 to get me out, man. What the hell? That wasn't smart. But at any rate, sitting there working on the lawsuit. First I want y'all to see this right here. Okay, this right here, this here is where they sent it telling me that I was charged with disorderly conduct by language, and there was a $393 fine by language. Now, I was arrested at UTMB Galveston. I want y'all to understand something. UTMB Galveston is a entity of the state of Texas. It is a government. Everybody working in there are governmental employees, every one of them. Your clerks, your appointment clerks, your nurses, your doctors, every one of them are actually working for the state government, okay? So, they are government. I want to point that out because you can't be arrested. A government employee cannot be a plaintiff for disorderly conduct if you tell them, fuck you. You cannot. No, fuck you. I will not comply. Okay? So, I wrote everything in my motion to dismiss this here case right here. Case number 24-1004-002. Disorderly conduct found in the JP Court Precinct 2. Okay? So, I wrote the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God in there what actually took place, which y'all fixing to learn a little bit about here. This here is the police report, what the police wrote. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, before me, the undersigned authority, on this day, personally appeared applicant C. McGee, number 450, who after being by me duly sworn on oath deposition says as follows. That theretofore, to wit, on about Friday, October 4th, 2024, and before the making and filing of this complaint, in the county of Galveston, state of Texas, Kennedy Bobby Joe did then there unlawfully commit the offense of disorderly conduct. Your affiant is C. McGee, number 450, the affiant being a sworn and commissioned peace officer of the UTMB Police Department, bases her belief on the following facts. Now, on October 4th, 2024, at approximately 9:23 hours, I, Corporal C. McGee, was dispatched to a verbal disturbance that was taking place at 902 Avenue B, University Hospital Clinics on the 5th floor. Now, on October the 4th of 2024 at 9:23 hours, they received this call. My wife had an appointment there, 2 appointments, one with Dr. Joseph Sunstein, the urologist, who his part in the whole case was actually done, but he's the one that botched the surgery, so he had a guilty conscience. So the last time we had seen him, he looked on the computer, he said, look, you got an appointment with colorectal surgery on October the 4th at 11:30 a.m. He said, go up there and tell them to make an appointment to see me at the same time, because we're on the same floor. I can just stop in, shake your hand, say, hey, make sure everything's doing good. His part in the case was already over with. Let's establish that. Okay? So I went up there and I did what he did upon his request. I made an appointment to see him on October the 4th with my wife at 11:30. At the same time, we had an appointment with colorectal surgery. 4 days before we went there, and I got that phone call, by the way. I got it, the log on here. And what they don't know is some of them I even recorded, okay? They don't know it. I'm waiting. They're going to find out here before long. Okay? But at any rate, 4 days before this appointment, they called me. They said, Mr. Kennedy, they asked for me specifically. Can we speak with Bobby Kennedy? Now, a month or 2 earlier, I had a trespass warning based on lies from a nurse that came to my house. Okay? And left here, told a bunch of lies. So I got a trespass warning over the phone. I never signed one. Okay, and whenever I got that trespass warrant, I was told that as long as I had a legitimate business being there, I could not be arrested for trespassing. An appointment with my wife, Linda, would be legitimate business. I went and I talked to the to the lead investigator for the district attorney for Galveston County, Mr. David Simon. And I talked to him personally. He did the investigation, and he told me, he talked to me on the phone, he said the same thing. He said, listen, Sergeant Collins said, as long as you have an appointment with your wife, not a problem, you can't be arrested for trespassing, okay? Now, we got that out the fact. Now, 4 days earlier, they called and asked me would I bring her in 2 hours early. They asked for me specifically, may I speak with Bobby Kennedy? I said, this is Bobby Kennedy speaking, what can I do for you? Mr. Kennedy, your wife has an appointment. Mr. Kennedy, your wife, Linda Vine, has an appointment here at 11:30 or 11 a.m. on October the 4th. Can you bring her in 2 hours early? I said, not a problem. Actually got her there at 8:30 this morning and registered her there at the front desk at 8:30 on October the 4th, 2024 by their request and their invitation inviting me, okay? So now, not only am I there on legitimate business, but the trespass warning is now null and void because I have been invited. Okay? So I brought her in. I actually got her there about 8:30 and registered her at the front desk. Okay? So we sat there till, I guess, 9:23, but they got this time. But I was sitting there watching them that come in at 9:15, 9:20. When I watched the one come in just 3 minutes before I walked up there and go in before us, I went up there and I asked them, I said, hey, why would y'all call us in here 2 hours early to have us sit here and wait 2 hours while you take those in to come in an hour after us, before us? Well, they didn't have an answer to their mistakes, their incompetence. So they just looked at me and they said, sir, if you don't lower your voice, we're going to call the police on you. I said, lower my voice. I said, go ahead, call the police. I ain't committed no crime. Are you stupid or what? Okay? So at that point in time, there was a counselor there, a patient care counselor, an advocate counselor. She heard what was going on. She was standing there. She said, hey, y'all come back here with me. She came, ran, opened the door. Y'all come back here with me. And Lynn and I went into her private office and was in her private office with her. Okay? We was in there having a conversation for about 5-10 minutes or so when the door flung open. Nurse said, well, I'm ready for them now. For my wife to step out and get on the scales, for me to step out and be greeted by Officer Zamino and Corporal McGee Powell. Okay? So, now, I seen Officer Zamino, who had a conversation with her once before in PACU, where they tried to say I was filming people up there when I was not. And that we could prove a violation of our rights there too, by God. A conspiracy to do it by the staff, the nurses' staff, because I called out one of them on the 8th floor and we had taken Linda back because what they did was made her even worse. Okay? But we nurses, we stick together. Okay? Linda was crying the whole time in PACU asking for me. She'll testify to it. She refused to stay in the hospital with a big huge gash in her back. The Dr. Sunstein will testify to that. He didn't know why she didn't stay in the hospital, but I digress. I was trained by Dr. Sunstein's staff, well, a couple of surgeons, on how to take care of these wounds, okay? I was her sole caregiver, okay, without a doubt. I'll prove that here in a bit. But I digress. Let's go on ahead and get now. Remember, these are all government employees. They're covered under the 11th Amendment and can't be held accountable for their behaviors, their bad behaviors. As a citizen, because they are such, you have a right to redress them and angrily do so, okay? We got that out the way. Now let's go back. The caller advised that the patient or visitor were being aggressive, yelling and cursing at staff. Upon arrival of the 5th floor, the staff began to point at a male and female standing in a hallway where the patient rooms were located. Now, first of all, there was no cursing at all. None. None whatsoever until the police got up there. Okay? Linda and I was in a room, a private office, with the counselor, a patient care counselor, who on October the 10th, called me on the phone 6 days after this arrest, which I have that one recorded, and asked me, after telling me how she had the situation under control, there was no problems, and she was very offended that the police was even there, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Kennedy, just for the convenience, won't you consider bringing your wife back here? 6 days after. Now, if I was so disorderly like what this report's about to say, why would they call me 6 days later and invite me back? Why? Because I paid them cash, one out of pocket. Yeah. For them hospital bills, we owe nothing. They've been paid. Okay? At any rate, go ahead and read. Yelling and cursing his staff. Upon the arrival of the 5th floor, staff began pointing at the male and female standing in the hallway where the patient rooms were located. Now, again, we wasn't standing in the hallway. We just exited the counselor's office. Linda was on the skit and on the scale, and I met the police. It'll be on their body cam footage. Now, the male and female both became verbally aggressive towards me, Officer Zamino. Me and Officer Zamino. This is a bald-faced lie. Bald-faced lie. Again, on their body cam footage, it will show right off the bat. As soon as they walked up there was Officer Zamino. I saw you again. I said, let me give you a hug. And I gave her a hug. I hugged her. That is not being nasty and aggressive. Hey, nice to see you. And gave her a hug. At what time this Corporal McGee Powell looks at me, she says, well, I was called here for disturbance. So I told her, I said, look, all I did was ask why would they call us in here 2 hours early to make us sit here and wait. Why they take those for 2 hours, why they take those that come in an hour after us before us. At that point in time, Officer McGee Powell looked at me and she said, sir, if you don't lower your voice, I'm going to arrest you, quote unquote. Well, now you pissed me off. Your police officer sworn to protect my rights, to keep me from being victimized. And now you're sitting there victimizing me by violating my very rights. I have done nothing but spoke to you in my normal tone of voice. So I told her, I said, are you stupid or what? You cannot arrest me for talking in my normal tone of voice. Fuck you. Quote unquote. It's on her body cam footage. This is why this case was actually dismissed after I paid a lawyer $3,000 because they refused me the exculpatory evidence, but that lawyer said, no, we're going to trial and I want this evidence. But on the way out the courtroom, I heard Judge Blake Apfel, okay, just to be fair with Judge Blake Apfel, he did look at the prosecutor, Ted Moore. He said, why didn't you provide Mr. Kennedy with this evidence he asked for? Okay, because he was there to deny my evidence, this exculpatory evidence. Ted Moore looked at the judge, he said, Your Honor, with a smile on his face, the state refused to send it to me. The reason why the state refused to send it to him was because it matches word for word what I wrote in my motion to dismiss. Okay? It matches it. I've done nothing wrong. I was robbed for $5,728 and 2 days of my time where I was locked up because she maliciously charged me with trespassing, so I would have to see a magistrate for a bond, to have a bond hearing. Then they intentionally held me at that UTMB hospital till right about lunchtime, hoping to keep me from being able to see the judge that evening. You understand? So I'd have to wait till 6 a.m. But the staff of the jail, that I was inside the staff, not the ones out there lying to my family, the one that I was dealing with inside, we had a good rapport, and he got me into the court. Okay, but I digress again, okay? So, in an effort to de-escalate the situation and remove disturbance from the public hallway, we moved into a patient room. Again, this is a lie. They took Linda's vitals. They said, come on, let's go to the room. And they said, go to this room down here at the end of the hallway. So Lynn and I are walking with the nurse. They took Linda's weight over there at the scale. So we walked to the room. The police follow us. Officers Zamino and McGee Powell follow us to the room. McGee Powell and Officer Zamino stop at the doorway. Now, McGee Powell done pissed me off. I ain't lying to you. Now, and it's not because she's a woman. If y'all think it is, y'all just ask the Marshall Bush Stroud, retired Marshall Bush Stroud from the city of Galveston, is it because of a woman, or did I disrespect one of his deputies that want to play like I'm Cool Hand Luke? Okay? Has to do with a motherfucker wearing a goddamn badge thinking they can use that authority to be official oppression against me. Okay? Fuck you. That's what I say to that. But at any rate, again, I digress. Okay, so anyway, we walked to the hallway. There we was at the door. Me and Linda walked into the patient room. The two police officers stopped at the door. They actually stopped. I looked at Zermino. I said, you know what? I said, you can come in here. I looked at Powell. I said, you cannot. You are not welcome. Zermino did not cross that door threshold. She just looked at me like I was crazy. McGee Powell ran her ass up in there just as quick as she could, just to let me know that she had the authority to do so. Now they got Linda over by the computer, and they're putting all her information into the computer. They're taking her BP and all this crap. Okay, so she comes over there, she signs, looks on the computer, looks at everything on the computer, puts her body cam looking at the computer, the screen, unlawfully identifying and obtaining all of Linda's medical information unlawfully. Okay, because that ain't none of her business. Okay? So now she's over there getting all this information that ain't hers. So that's pissing me off. So I looked at her and I said, you know what? Fuck you. You're just a clown in a clown suit. Fuck you. You fixing to go in handcuffs. You fixing to go in handcuffs. Man, arrest me then. She said, you got some ID on you? I said, no, I do not. Or, no, I said, I do, but you can't have it. And that's what I said. She said, you got some ID on you? I said, yes, I do, but you can't have it. What crime can you articulate that I committed? Okay? And she says, well, have you ever had a trespass warning from here? Well, like I said, a couple months earlier, based on lies, over the phone, not a written trespass warning, while I'm sitting in my living room at my home, not for something that happened at UTMB. Something that didn't even happen here. It was a lie. Okay? It was a lie as a way of retaliation for me exposing some of the things I exposed on the nurses up there. Okay? Yep, because them nurses, they stick together. Zermino can testify to that. I think she'll tell the truth what them nurses told her that day. I've asked for the body cam footage, but they refused that and too from that day in PACU from few months earlier, several months earlier. But again, I digress. Okay? Okay? While moving down the hallway toward the patient room, Kennedy Bobby Joe, white male, date of birth 11/11/66, the male involved, was being loud and disruptive. Several attempts were made to get Kennedy to lower his voice and stop yelling. Several times Kennedy used the word fuck as we were attempting to speak to him and de-escalate. Hey, all that's pretty much lies because there was really no speaking all the way down the hallway. Once I told them, fuck you, you can't do this, that, and the other, for arrest me for speaking in my own normal tone of voice, which was my own normal tone of voice. We had just walked out of a patient counselor advocate's office. As they walked up, I hugged Officer Zermino. At what time? Officer McGee Powell said, well, I was called here for a disturbance. So I told her in my normal tone of voice, all I did was ask them, why would they bring us here 2 hours early to make us sit here and wait 2 hours while they take those who come in an hour after us before us? Why would they do that? And that's when Officer McGee Powell had to escalate the whole situation and create the situation. There was none until she created it. Well, if you don't lower your voice, I'm going to arrest you. Really? Really? It's a crime for me to talk in my own normal tone of voice now. I did not know that I lived in North Korea. But what I'm telling y'all is, it's all lies. What I wrote in my motion to dismiss this disorderly conduct under that case number is public record. You can read the whole thing. First, I put the First Amendment. I put Supreme Court justice rulings. I put the law of the land on there. And then I wrote everything that took place, word for word, and which will match their body cam footage. Once again, what they refused to even provide to the district attorney. Of course, here at this here court, they told me I had to accept just the police report as evidence, and I had to go to trial against the judge, the district attorney, and the police by myself, no lawyer and no jury. Well, I hired a lawyer. Get out their minds. Okay? This is lies, man, all of it. Upon entering the exam room, Kennedy just caused a scene and was yelling to the point that care could not be provided by the medical staff. Now, this is a lie again. Again, they was providing. I told you how it happened. I told them she wasn't allowed to come in. She came in. The nurse was taking the vitals, okay? The nurse took the vitals, put them into the computer. Linda walked back across from the chair from the computer and sat back over there where the police now had moved clear to the other side of the room with Linda, one on each side of her. Where McGee Powell was closest to me, Zermina was closest to the door. And that's when Zermina Powell asked me, do I have ID? That's when the nurse got up and said, the doctor will be in here in a few minutes, and walked out. Within the next 30 seconds. That cop asked me, had I been trespassing there? I said, yes, I have. She said, well, you can leave. I looked at my wife. I said, come on, let's go. We got up and started walking out. On the way out the hospital, I'm passing the office there. That's wide open, got a bunch of windows open, the blinds open. I see Dr. Sunstein in there. I step in there, I'm shaking his hand. I'm saying, Dr. Sunstein, gonna have to see you next time. I'm gonna have to reschedule. As soon as I got that out of my mouth, I'm already in there shaking his hand. I hear the bark an order. Nah, don't you go over there. Well, I stepped out and I said, man, I'm shaking the man's hand. Fuck you. Okay? Fuck you. Y'all some piece of shit motherfuckers. There was no problem until y'all had to make a problem. Okay? That's where I was arrested at that fucking point in time. Okay? Okay? To the point medical care could not be provided. Now, again, almost instantly, guys, I transferred her care almost instantly. Now, colorectal surgery for UTMB that day, obviously we was not there because I was in jail, and they had already been telling Linda that she had to wait 18 months from the time everything was healed up. She'd have to wait another 18 months to let everything cool down and all the scar tissue, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, this here's our student. She won't be able to do surgery for about another 14 months. She's going to be the one doing it for you. You got to wait 18 months to get it done, though, okay? So that way it'll give her plenty of time to graduate and get her license to be able to do the surgery. You understand what they was doing? They were setting her up. So I took her to Houston colorectal surgery. And the surgeon that actually did the reversals for her, he said, no. He said, that's all I do. You know, I install colostomies, I reverse them. He said, normally every one that I do that's reversible, I reverse it within the first 3 months after 90 days. He said, the longer you wait, the less chance of success you have. UTMB was lying to us, telling us nobody would take the case. The longer you wait, the better you are. If you do it before 18 months, it's 100% guaranteed failure. That's what UTMB colorectal surgeon said, because they had the whole reason why they accidentally on purpose botched the nephrectomy, a simple nephrectomy, by using a JP drain. Okay? If y'all know anything about it, y'all know it's not supposed to be stitched to the inside, but it was. The whole reason why they botched the nephrectomy is because they wanted to teach colostomy and colostomy reversal. Now, I wondered why physical therapy was ordered before the surgery. I wondered why we had to have an appointment that took special administrators to get the appointment with a Dr. Welsh with general surgery. I wondered why all these weird things happened before the nephrectomy ever happened. Okay? But at any rate, they did that because they wanted to learn. But this here is a letter from Houston colorectal surgery from just 4 months later, okay? Because I had Linda, their first surgery was done December 17th, I believe it was, December 17th. I was arrested October the 4th. Houston colorectal surgery did the colostomy reversal on December 17th. But because UTMB had it so tore up so bad, yeah, he installed an ileostomy and left that in there for about 10 weeks, okay, and then he reversed that in, I believe, February. But February, I had been called for jury duty. So on February 3rd, 2025, I had them write me a letter from Houston Colorectal Surgery Group, okay, Houston Colorectal Surgery Group, and it says right here, Mr. Bobby Kennedy is the sole caregiver. To whom it may concern, Houston Colorectal, okay, and the doctor's signature at the bottom, okay, Houston Colon, okay, sole caregiver, okay. Now, that's what I'm telling you, they lie through their teeth, man. But according to Judge Blake Atfield, the police never tell a lie, they only tell the truth. And again, okay. Now, Mr. Kennedy, who is known to have had an active criminal trespass warrant, was asked for his identification. Now, first of all, she did not know I had a trespass warrant. She asked me for my identification first. Then she asked me had I ever had the trespass warrant. I said, yes, I have. And then she said, well, you can leave. And at that point, I told Linda, come on, let's go. But as I told y'all, she said, do you have any ID on you? I said, yes, I do, but you can't have it. What crime can you articulate I committed in here? And she said, well, have you ever had a trespass warrant in here? I said, well, yes, I have. She said, well, you can leave. So I told Linda, come on, let's go. And we got up and started walking out. This is all a lie. She's lying. I will submit to a polygraph test. If I'm lying, you can cut my fucking nuts off right now because I'm telling you, I'm speaking the truth. Again, it's all written on my motion to dismiss this, and my motion to dismiss what I wrote will match their body cam footage 100%. Okay? Kennedy refused his identification. Okay. Kennedy was then advised that he needed to leave due to not being a patient. Again, a lie. Causing a disruption and not having official business. Again, not having official business. It had already been established that I'm there on an appointment with my wife. Now, it even says on the trespass warning that they had me sign on October the 4th after they arrested me. Okay, after they arrested me, they had me sign it. It even says it on there that if I'm there for an appointment, even with my spouse or my wife, it's legitimate business. Plus, I am the sole caregiver. If I'm the sole caregiver, does that not give me legitimate business to be there with the patient that I'm the sole caregiver for? Freaking piece of crap. She's trying to play like she's stupid. Now, I want y'all to understand something. I quit school in the 9th grade. That gives me essentially an 8th grade education. And I can understand the essentials of legitimate business and an appointment with my wife being legitimate business. Not only to mention that I told her on her... Okay, not to mention I told her on her body camera several times that I was told an appointment with my wife is legitimate business by the detective and by the investigator for the DA's office, okay? So, and it's on her body cam footage. And after she actually arrested me at the street, when I was escorted to the street, she went over there, she was trying to escort my wife, okay? First they grabbed her by her hand and told her she had to go back in and see the doctor. See, she's not telling that in here, where they grabbed my wife by her arms and told her, you need to go back and see the doctor. My wife said, oh, fuck no. Grabbed them, shook away. Hell no, they'll fucking kill you in there. Y'all fucking pigs and this, that, and the other, okay? Okay, she broke away. She pissed her off even more. McGee Powell come over there where I believe it was Hernandez over there. Sergeant Hernandez had me over there searching me and being real rough with me. Whenever she come over there, she said, he's under arrest for trespassing. He's got a trespass warrant in the center system. He's going to jail for trespassing. Okay, and I looked at her, I said, I'm not trespassing. This is once again about the third time I told her. I'm here on legitimate business, an appointment with my wife. And she looked at me, she said, nope, she's the patient, not you. You're going to jail for trespassing. They hadn't yet got to disorderly conduct yet, okay? Because this disorderly conduct, when they went back, I'm at the police station, they're being all rough with me again with this here sergeant. She shows back up there. She talks with this here Hernandez for a little while. They talk for a little while, and Hernandez says, I'm going to have him sign the TP, trespass, the warning trespass, the TPW, or whatever he called it, TPW, trespass warning. He said, okay, and then she went out on her cell phone and in my presence called back to the 5th floor clinic. This is over an hour after the fact, mind you. I'm going to need y'all to give me an affidavit stating that you was offended by his language. Okay, over an hour after the fact, she solicited a complaint for this disorderly conduct. Now, I want to again reiterate that the same way the police officer cannot be the plaintiff for me telling them, fuck you, you a piece of shit, the people working in UTMB cannot either. They are government employees. They are the government. They are covered by the 11th Amendment and they are not held accountable for their actions. The only thing the poor man like me has is my right protected under the First Amendment, my right of redress. Period. Okay? At any rate, I need to leave to being a patient causing a disruption and not having official business. I had the official business. And I explained that to them several times. Kennedy and the patient then began to yell and walked out of the room. As they were walking down the hallway, Kennedy went into the doctor's office and attempted to speak to the staff upon Kennedy being removed from the office. Okay, now, that's a lie. All this is a lie. I was not removed from the office. The way this happened was, as I was walking down the hallway, I seen Dr. Sunstein there on the computer through these windows that was wide open, blinds open as all glass, just one big basic glass wall. So I stepped in there and I spoke with Dr. Sunstein, not the staff. I spoke with Dr. Sunstein, which I guess he's staff, okay? And I was shaking his hand. As I was shaking his hand, telling Dr. Sunstein, not going to be able to see you this time. I'm going to have to reschedule. I hear it come, no, don't you go over there. And I was like, man, what the fuck, man? And I shook his hand, and he just kind of looked at me, and I stepped out, and I looked at them. I said, man, I'm shaking the man's hand. Fuck you. And that's when I was arrested about that. I said, McGee Powell said, you fixing to be put in handcuffs. I said, well, put me in cuffs then. About that time, the elevator opened, 4 or 5 more cops stepped off, and that's when she ran over there and put me in handcuffs, okay? That's when I was arrested. Then I was handed off to Officer Hernandez, who took me downstairs, out the back, downstairs, while McGee Powell disappeared. Turns out they was trying to first escort my wife back into the doctor's office, force her to see the doctor, which she refused. And after she refused, they escorted her off the property with her using all kinds of profanity at them, telling them there's fucking pigs. And I know y'all like your fucking donuts, but I don't have none. I'll give you some of my husband's coffee, though. Then they wanted to take the elevator, but even though she was wounded like she was, she said, hell no. She was going to make them work. She took the stairs, made them escort her off the stairs all the way up to the 5th floor of the top parking lot of the parking garage, because as a way of physical therapy, I was parking up at the top. I'd walk her down, I'd walk her up the stairs, really easy, as a way of physical therapy to help get her back in shape. But again, I digress. Okay. Went to the doctor's office, said upon Kennedy being removed from the office, never was, I walked out on my own and was detained and handcuffed. Right there, yep. Kennedy was led to a patrol unit outside where he was able to be identified. Okay, upon the criminal trespass warning being confirmed, Kennedy was placed under arrest for criminal trespass. Again, at this point, when she walked over there and she said that, I told her, I said, again, I'm here on a legitimate business appointment with my wife. The issuing officer over the phone who gave me that trespass warrant over the phone said could not be arrested if I was here on legitimate business. So did David Simon, the lead investigator for the district attorney's office. I'm here on legitimate business. She said, nope, she's the patient, not you. You're going to jail for trespass. I said, okay, you're going to be sued. They took me to the police station. There was no affidavit of facts at all. There was no affidavit of facts at all. Over an hour after the fact, that cop McGee Powell, she called in my presence on her cell phone and told them she needed an affidavit because she needed this right here because they knew the trespass was not going to stick. They knew they was going to be sued. They knew the only reason why I was being arrested was because I was being arrested for the crime of POP, pissing off the police. They made the mistake arresting me. They should have just let me go. Said, we're escorting you off the property. But again, I got the phone call, the call logs, okay. I got all the stuff from the cases. I ain't throwing nothing away, okay. I got the research. I got communications with the lawyer when I hired the lawyer, Evan Clevenger. I got the pictures of the phone showing where the phone logs showing where they called me 4 days earlier. I got the phone log showing where she called me on October the 10th. 6 days later, I even recorded that one. Y'all can find it on my YouTube channel. But the point is, all this here is a lie. And I have a lawsuit here that I will be filing on probably Monday or Tuesday, this coming Monday or Tuesday of this week. Okay. That's not the one I want. Okay. My discovery notes, because what I'm going to have to do for discovery, okay. This is the actual lawsuit that I'm going to file. Now, just to show y'all real quick, I will do a word count. 17 pages, y'all see this, page 17. To review. There we go. 17 pages, 6,155 words, 34,354 characters. Without spaces, with spaces is 41,884 characters, 134 paragraphs, 484 lines, okay? This here's basically describing it all in my own words. Now, I have prepared other things in preparation for what's about to take place, okay? Here's a motion to oppose summary judgment. Okay? Because the first thing I'm going to have to do a motion to oppose dismissal based on, I'm going to have to do a motion to oppose, motion to dismiss, motion to oppose defendant's motion to dismiss based on qualified immunity, summary judgment, motion to oppose summary judgment based on qualified immunity. And then there's another rule that I'm going to have to file with the court, a motion to ask the court to say that it's frivolous, that it's not a matter of law, the qualified immunity, that it's frivolous and that they can't file any more appeals, because what they got with qualified immunity, it really does suck what they're allowed to do. I mean, it's kind of bogus as can be, man. Bogus as can be, okay? Oh, that's how much I'm suing them for right there. $62,428.80. All they had to do to settle it was pay me out-of-pocket expenses, $5,728. Now, I was in jail for 2 days. Okay, so I'm asking for compensatory damages of $29,728. That's 2 days in jail, plus my wife's damages for her, you know, me being the sole caregiver, all the lies they told, everything they did, the official pressing $32,700.80 for the punitive damages. Total damage is $62,428.80. Okay, I'm gonna file it. I got news for them. This here's what it is: retaliatory prosecution, retaliatory arrest. An absent of probable cause. Trespass charge. There was no probable cause because she knew I was there on a legitimate business, an appointment with my wife. Okay, that's a lie in the police report. They knew I was there on legitimate business, an appointment with my wife, but she lied on the police report anyway. Oh, that's on this one right here. Okay. Yeah. So this here's a different police report. Thing is, on the trespassing police report is totally different. But this one right here, this one here's a lie. The trespass police report, like I said, we got it already. It's done. It's dismissed due to a lack of evidence. Okay. Oh, that's one of them that had a duplicated case. That's right. He charged me with the disorderly conduct in JP court twice. Yeah, he charged me that twice. At any rate, these here are the two for the disorderly conduct. This one right here, they're both the same case now. These are both the same case. He filed this one here on 29th day of May 2025. Ted Moore, mind you, okay? It was dismissed. That's the dismissal on this case right here. And this here's the first dismissal on it because he had me charged twice in the same court. Yeah, see? Duplicated case filed. See? Other duplicated case filed for the disorderly conduct. And the trespassing one, I had it earlier. Maybe I got it over here. All this other paperwork. But at any rate, y'all can look it all up online. The motion to dismiss, if you look up this case right here, case number 24-1004-002 in the JP County Court of Galveston, Texas. You'll see everything in there. And you might even be able to find the trespass case too. The trespass case was dismissed due to unable to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Lack of evidence, that's what that is, lack of evidence. Okay, but that, guys, this is the police report. That is a bald-faced lie, but according to Judge Blake Atfill, you don't need, and his prosecutor Ted Moore, you don't need exculpatory evidence. All you need is the police report against you, the police, and you can go to trial against the officer, the district attorney, and the judge, and you don't get no lawyer, and you don't get no evidence. This is all you get. Unless you pay. I paid a real lawyer $3,000, man. I wasn't going to play. Well, I was going to jury trial. And it was dismissed off of my work within 24 hours after we had the hearing 2 days before it was dismissed. Okay? 3 days before it was dismissed. We had the hearing. To deny me my evidence, to deny my motion to dismiss. Now, y'all read my motion to dismiss. Now, hear everything I explained here on this, and then read my motion to dismiss. And you'll understand how they have violated the First Amendment horribly. Horribly what they've done. They need to be held accountable. With that, guys, I'm out.